Hello and welcome! Welcome back to my channel. I am here to give a follow-up to my online teaching series. My name is Professor_Ashley on Twitch, or you can just call me Ashley. My contact information is right over here. So if you have any questions about this video or any other videos or me or what I do, please do get in touch. You can also leave a comment on this video. The too long didn't read. So if you are short on time, good news, after this slide, you can stop watching the video. But if you'd like to hear more and actually see the data, stay tuned. Let's get into it. So if you remember, a few months ago, I made a couple YouTube videos on how to change your in-person, or as my students like to say, meet space classes for the internet because of the COVID-19 virus. And of make a lot of YouTube videos, but I'm talking about these two in particular. If you have not yet watched these videos, I will make sure to link them in the description. Please go and watch them, and hopefully they are helpful for you and your classes. But this is a follow-up. So I'm really keen and really interested to find out how your classes went when you switched them from meeting in person to meeting online. And I'm going to share with you how my classes went switching them from in-person to meeting online using things like Twitch and YouTube and Zoom and all those other wonderful technological devices. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be telling you a little bit about what happened to my classes, because when I made those previous videos, I made them when I was also flying by the seat of my pants, but I decided to share whatever insights I had, right? We're all in this together. So here's the key takeaways that I learned, sometimes through the hard way, from having my classes switched to online. So the first thing I learned is that students are maybe used to being students, but being an online student is very, very different to being a traditional get in your car, go to the university, go to the library and study, go to the classroom lectures, go home, do your homework, upload those to the internet, rinse and repeat, right? So not having FaceTime actually changed the classes a lot. And I know we all kind of know that, and we kind of anticipated that going into it, but it changed it in kind of ways that I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to show you some data that points at the fact that students weren't really sure how to time manage. So if we are stuck in this situation again, one of my biggest recommendations for you all is to make sure you go over in your classes effective time management and how to be a successful online student. Make sure to tell your students what that looks like. Make sure to give them examples and pro tips on how to be a successful online student. The next thing is that for my students in particular, being very informal worked best. So I don't know your students, I don't know you, but for my students in particular, using informal teaching styles and informal methods of communication worked best. What I mean when I say informal methods of communication is students often couldn't go to a computer and sit down and write out a super formal, "Dear Professor Brown, I am struggling with da 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 da." A lot of times students did not have access to a computer. So I made myself available through an app called Discord, which again, gamer you, it's on my shirt. We teach video gamers and we teach people how to make video games. So maybe we're in a little bit of a different situation, but gamers like to use Discord as a means to communicate to other gamers. So my students were already using the service. I was actually already using the service, although not for work. I was using the service for gaming. So we just kind of transferred most of our communication over to Discord, and that worked really, really well. A schedule was really, really important. So I made sure that I kept my class running functionally from normal time. So if the class was 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon, that's exactly the time that we'd meet online. Some other professors did not. Some other professors switched up their schedule because, hey, I don't have to be there at 9 a.m., so why would I want to be there at 9 a.m.? Let's all sleep in. And that sounds really good on paper, but then what happened was students weren't able to come to my class because another professor had shifted their class to being in the afternoon, and then they couldn't go to this other class because then da-da-da-da, right? It's a trickle-on effect. So unfortunately, we think of the digital space as being asynchronous and not having a physical location of where you want to be and when, and that's just not true. I think we all know this by now, right? I am literally in Zoom meetings today from 8 a.m. until 8:30 p.m. I'm scheduled to the minute on my Zoom meetings, and our students are too. And so I think that's something that we've all had to learn the hard way. Okay, so just to give you a recap, if you haven't seen my other two videos, go back and watch those, but the short of it is that I changed my classes to follow a particular format, more or less. There was a little bit of variation between the class. Obviously, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Different classes have different needs and requirements. But I changed my classes to have a 1 hour-ish. Sometimes it was like half an hour, sometimes it was like an hour and a half. I really tried to pare them down to be as short as possible. A 1 hour lecture or tutorial each week that I would upload to YouTube 1 week in advance. So I would give students 1 week to watch a YouTube video and take a quiz through Canvas, which is how they earn their participation grade. So typically I would grade students based on whether or not they came to class, how many questions they asked in class. My classes are very participatory, which is why I really struggled moving them online. But I would try to compensate for that, and it's so not the same thing. It's really not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. But making do with what we could, I would do a 1 hour YouTube lecture, upload it, give the students a week to view it, and then they had a week to complete a 3-question quiz on Canvas. The next thing I did was, my classes are typically 3 hours long, so 1 hour lecture. 1 hour I would do a full class Zoom meeting, which was their chance to do a Q&A. Ask me anything, ask me about the assignment, which I went over in the lecture video, ask questions about concepts that they might not have been familiar with, anything. And then, again, depending on the class, I would have a 1 hour practical / activity / workshop. So that varied. Some examples of this are for my user interface class, we would do a show and tell. So they would have 1 hour to show off their user interface portfolio work, and then everyone in the Zoom meeting would be able to comment on it. For my introduction to game design class, we had a class in Fortnite. We spent an hour playing Fortnite because our topic of the week was on social design. So how do certain games impact whether or not you play cooperatively or competitively. So we all got together through Discord and Fortnite and hung out, which was pretty rad. And then likewise for my intro to game class, we did a workshop where I taught them really basic Unreal Engine stuff. And then we jumped in Engine and mucked around and made a small little game, which we would have been doing in class. So, to be completely transparent with you, these are the 3 classes that I taught 4 classes this semester. These are the 3 that I studied for this particular YouTube video and for my postmortem. Every semester when I finish a class, I do a postmortem just to see what I could do better. So I administered the survey that you're about to see the results of to my 3 taught classes, meaning these would be classes that students would come in, have a lecture, do homework, have a project, etc. And that is Intro to Game Design, User Interface, and User Research. So it's important to note, there's a lot of numbers there. It's important to note that User Research and User Interface were both meets with classes, which means that undergrads and grads would be in the same class, functionally having the same instruction, but their assignments would be different, and the amount of time the teaching assistant and I would spend giving feedback and helping the students were slightly different. I would expect a higher level of quality and time spent from the master's students than the undergrads. And those classes work well when they're industry focused. That's a whole nother video. We're not going to get into that. Instead, we're going to talk about the class I excluded. So I excluded Games Projects 3, which is a projects-based class, and the students were kind of on their own to structure. That gets a little bit more complicated. So it's a thesis class, essentially. So students typically do their thesis independent of a professor anyway, with professor supervision. So it just functioned differently. It was about scheduling supervision meetings and not delivering taught content in quite the same way, which is why I excluded it from this study. So I had quite a low response when I sent this survey out. I sent it out through all of our methods of communication. I sent it out during finals week. Part of the reason probably I didn't get such great responses. But in total, 27 participated out of a possible 89. So not a super great rate, but hey, what do you expect? We're in a global pandemic. My head is cutting off my slide. As you can see, I'm very professional at this. So in total, I had 15 mandatory multiple choice questions and 21 optional open-ended questions in this survey. So now, without further ado, let's get into the data. I did this survey off of the official survey the University of Utah's Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence sends out every semester, like our typical student feedback. So I tried to mimic the questions, but I wanted specifically to know, how did the classes switch to online impact you? So I asked, and this is a Likert scale, so just a 5-point Likert scale. I was able to meet the class learning objectives through the online format. Most of the students agreed or strongly agreed, with only 4 students saying they were neither agree nor disagree. I've included some of the comments, of course anonymized, to help provide some context for this chart. So one of the comments was, you meaning me, were able to transition us over to an online format with very little to no issues. Although it wasn't as fun, I was able to learn all the material effectively and efficiently. I use a color system in my feedback. So green means it's a positive thing, red means it's a negative thing, and orange means it's neutral or it's not particularly positive or negative, it's just constructive feedback. So here's a negative. A negative is, right, no one's being actually negative, right? Constructive or I didn't like this type comment. This comment from participant 11 says, oh yes, something else to note. I put P to shorten participant. These are all anonymized. So if you see P6, that's participant 6. P11 is participant 11. So that's just to reassure you that I'm not just making up what people said. People actually did say this, and we can go back through the anonymized survey data and I can show you. Participant 11 says, it was really difficult to follow along at times due to all the distractions that are naturally available through working at home. Likewise, participant 9, who my head is covering up, I did not think about slide design, says, I think online is not ideal, especially when portions of the class, in this case an interview, were designed for in-person learning, which is fair. I'm just going to present the data without comment, but there you go. So the online class content is well organized. Here again, we have 19 respondents that strongly agree, and then participant 23 said she took the time to make modules easily accessible and make Canvas not feel awful. Flawless victory, yeah! This is something like, I want to frame this and put it on my wall, right? We've all struggled with Canvas or Blackboard, and so I'm glad to know my efforts were appreciated. One of the other students said there were many channels of communication necessary to gather information. Canvas, Discord, YouTube, Zoom, having so many sources of communication could make it easy to miss something. However, generally all content was available at all sources, so they linked to one another. So this wasn't an issue for participant 9. I wanted to quickly comment on this because I was going absolutely bonkers. And do let me know in the comments, I almost said in chat, do let me know, email me, tweet me, hop into Twitch, whatever. Let me know if this was your experience as well. But at some points toward the end of the semester, I felt like all I was doing was posting on Discord, on YouTube, on Zoom, on Canvas, through email, through Slack. I was going absolutely bonkers because anytime I would miss one, like I literally had Post-it notes with like the different sources I had to post announcements on, and it was taking up so much of my time, and it's not time well spent. So this is something personally, I know it's going in my postmortem. I need to fix this. I cannot be spending 3-4 hours a day making sure everyone knows where I've posted something. It's bonkers. And I'm so glad to know that the students don't even find it helpful. Okay, the data, here we go. Online class materials, YouTube lectures, Unreal 4 tutorials, Fortnite games, Zoom meetings, Canvas, Discord. I did a lot of different stuff. It's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall this time around. Okay, so what do we think of those? Mostly positive, right? They found them helpful. Oh, sorry, the question got cut off. So the question was, online class materials are helpful. And we have mostly agrees and strongly agrees, a few 3 neithers. The comments are, due to finals and other things in some other classes, I wasn't able to make it to everything, like the Fortnite night, which I'm sad about. Fortnite night's fun little word. But the videos were helpful since I could do them whenever. That's participant 4. Participant 11 says, I wish that the Zoom meetings were captured so that I could watch them later, especially if I'm absent due to unforeseen circumstances. I chose not to record my Zoom meetings, even though you can. The reason why I chose not to is because students were often showing off their own personal intellectual property, and I know that gets a little bit sketchy for privacy concerns. And even though our Zoom is FERPA approved, I thought students would feel more comfortable sharing their work and asking questions if it was not recorded. But I did get a lot of comments and feedback but basically students wanted my office hours recorded. And I don't know where I'm at on that. I'm still on a hard no, but if we have to teach online again, I don't know if I'll have to revise my stance. Participant 26 said, my ADHD and autism can cause a delay in comprehension of the more subtle parts of the material. So I thought this was really interesting because this is all the comment that I have. So I don't have context to know whether or not the student said this saying, I enjoy being able to go back over it, or if the online portions, like the Zoom meetings, were in real time and in front of everyone, and that made the student uncomfortable and made it difficult to learn. I'm not really sure how to read that comment, but I included it in this analysis. In the comments I'm putting on screen, obviously I'm limited in time and space, so this is not a comprehensive selection of the comments. These are just ones I found particularly illuminating, so they are a bit cherry-picked, full disclosure. But I included this one because I think it's really interesting to consider how students with varying abilities were able to transition in addition to every other student, right? There are other conditions that we need to keep in mind and be aware of, and I am going to raise my hand and take full responsibility and say, I'm not really sure how I can make my courses more friendly for people with ADHD and autism and other abilities. So that's something I need to do more research on. If you have sources, I would love them. Here's a long quote, but it's a really good one. My students are really, really awesome at giving feedback. I didn't mean to be gender exclusive. I couldn't have asked for more. The other online classes didn't have the personal touch nor genuine closeness between teachers and students or students and students that other online classes lack. I love the YouTube videos that made it helpful to go back to compare to missing something and not being able to go back to it in a classroom without bothering the instructor or others. And if I needed to, I usually got a quick response on Discord compared to waiting a while with an email. I could also get help or feedback from other students. The Zoom meetings were really helpful and gave personal face-to-face touch. Being able to share our work and talk about it with other students was less scary than in front of a classroom. I kind of would like to see a way to schedule an after-class Zoom meeting, such as knowing a possible allotted time or dedicated time for a student in case they needed to, such as what Elizabeth does, but it doesn't need to be that formal. It's participant 10. I love this too because they shouted out Elizabeth is our undergraduate advisor, and she is absolutely killing it with making herself available through Zoom like office meetings for advising. So this comment was really great. It was really useful to know that in addition to having this structured Zoom time where everyone in class can come and talk, it's really helpful to have just this is going to be personal. This is just going to be you and me talking. Changes, modifications, and or alterations to an assignment or due dates were helpful to my success in the class. So I tried to be flexible here. And we see an overwhelming strongly agree, and one person that was a little lukewarm. So it says the changes that were made, the changes in mods were helpful, and Ashley was willing to change stuff from student feedback or extend things to ensure our success, such as changing the final or lowering the final amount of it. That was participant 10, so yep, participant 10 like that. This is a neutral comment. If these circumstances ever repeat, I think being as lax as possible in terms of due dates is helpful to students. So I'm passing that on from participant 13 to you, all you lovely instructors out there in the wild. Being flexible with due dates is definitely helpful in a pandemic situation. Okay. I learned a great deal in this class. Again, strongly agree with a couple, neither agree nor disagrees. And the comments are, both online and in person, this class was effective and informative. Awesome, thanks for the feedback, participant 22. Participant 23 said, I learned a lot, but I felt certain subjects needed more than a week, like stats or finding the fun, etc. User Research Advanced Part 2. I love this comment. I marked this one as neutral, but this student's asking for me to extend my user research class to a second part. I've offered them, or I don't know that, I've offered everyone to do an independent study with me because they were frustrated that they couldn't continue on in user research. So that's kind of flattering, but not super relevant to moving the class online, but still flattering nonetheless. Okay, the lectures were well organized. Mostly strongly agrees. This is all good stuff. Participant 10 said, I felt that the lectures were well organized, covered what they needed to without drowning out or what they needed to say or overwhelming with information. They were clear, concise, and well covered. Woohoo! Awesome. The professor presented lectures effectively using YouTube and Zoom. Mostly strongly agrees. 1, neither agree nor disagree. Participant 9 said that in-person learning is preferable for me since there is more peer-to-peer interaction and the professor-to-peer interaction, but I can't think of anything specifically you could have done better given the circumstances, which is very fair feedback. This is what I mean when I say my students are so good at giving feedback. They're like, hey, I miss having professor interaction, in-person interaction. I miss having peer-to-peer interaction, but what can you do? It's a pandemic. So this is a very mature way to give feedback. Good job, Participant 9. Some of the Zoom meetings, although fun, felt a bit ineffective. Maybe instead of just having questions, we could have some exercise that would go along with the questions. Just an idea. Super appreciated, Participant 27. I'm going to move out of the way again so you can read that. All very good stuff, very critical stuff that I'm going to use when I overhaul this class. Okay, so this question, all these questions were optional. As part of my survey, I not only asked about the class and how I can improve the class, but I also wanted to assess how stressed out students were, either about the class or about their education or about the situation overall. So, when compared to when the class was taught in person, I found it difficult to concentrate on lectures, assignments, or coursework. And this was how much do you agree or disagree with this statement type question. So this was kind of spread all over the place, right? This is the first time we don't see that, that clustering of the strongly agrees and agrees. We kind of have a flattened response rate, very, very heterogeneous in the response. So participant 10 again, participant 10 wrote a lot. Actually, I found it better going online for this class. My other class was a difficult change. I'm not saying that it wasn't a weird change and didn't have an impact, but I'm just saying I got used to it being online. I noticed a lot more of an understanding and ability to get more feedback in order to understand and improve on assignments, which is great. Participant 13 said, it might just be me, but I always find it more difficult to focus if I'm not speaking directly to a person. So I thought this was really eye-opening. I think we have this digital natives kind of narrative about how particularly game students or STEM students or computer science students or students in tech love tech, they're immersed in it, they want to be in tech all the time. And participant 13's comment is a really poignant reminder that that's not necessarily the case for everyone. Some people, although they love tech, although they want to go home and, you know, jump on World of Warcraft and Discord like I do, or they want to play Warzone on Call of Duty like I do, it's not necessarily effective for learning. And it's much easier to learn face-to-face in person. Compared to when the class was taught in person, I've experienced more stress when it comes to coursework. Again, this is pretty spread out. Slightly more ambivalency, but pretty spread out in terms of responses. If anything, this is a positive comment from participant 3. If anything, I got a bunch more motivation from it being online. It opened the door for some pretty fun activities. Participant 8 said, time management has become a problem since I don't have a clear break in my day where I go to class and focus. And participant 10 said, at first it was stressful, but I was able to adapt. It's more of the outside stuff or influence from other classes that made or had an impact on my experience with stress and coursework in this class. So it's kind of all over the place, right? The qualitative comments reflect the quantitative responses. Some folks really responded well to being for the class being online, and other folks struggled with time management. This is where, at the beginning of the video, I said we need to help teach our students how to be online students. We need to teach them, particularly at an undergraduate level, how to effectively time manage as an individual. We need to go over things like setting alarms in your phone, setting Google Calendar reminders, whatever resources you use, make sure your students know that too. That's important, and that's part of our job. Even though that's not relevant to game design, that's still part of our job to teach them to be professionals, in my humble opinion. Feel free to disagree. Absolutely. Okay, compared to when the class was taught in person, I struggled with keeping my attention focused on classwork or assignments. This is strongly agrees. This one was tough. Participant 13 says it's much easier to forget things when I'm not physically attending class. Participant 27 says online school does not work well with me. Participant 14 said any lack of attention was related to outside work and not the move to online. So one of the, it's a important caveat. I don't think these responses are 100% coming from the move from a meet space class, physical class, to online. We're also living in a global pandemic, right? So yes, there's going to be a lot more struggling with attention. We're in a global pandemic. So grain of salt there. Okay, compared to when this class was taught in person, I feel like the professor and teaching assistants are more compassionate. So this is where I want to give a shout out to some Facebook groups I'm a part of. I joined a few teaching groups on Facebook. I'm not going to give away any trade secrets here or shout out any of them directly, but a few of the Facebook groups I'm a member of were super helpful in just keeping me grounded and reminding me we are literally living through a pandemic. We should, who cares if an assignment's late, really? Like, let's just prioritize our physical health, our mental health, our family, our friends, our humanity, and then we'll worry about teaching or getting in a final or grading or what have you. So this case mostly strongly agrees and agrees. There was one strongly disagree, and hey, that person, I'm sorry. I tried. Participant 8 says, Ashley has been incredible in helping us through this crazy time and making class as close as we can get to normal. Participant 6, I like the little emoji that Participant 6 has. It's very cute. You've always been compassionate and understanding. It's what makes you such an awesome professor. Well, thank you, Participant 6. I try. I think I get a bad rep. Maybe I'm too grumpy or something, but I really do try. It seemed like the class, this one's a neutral comment, it seems like the class was a bit more laid back, but I think that was more the result of a pandemic and strange circumstances. Really, it was just being open to flexibility. In any other circumstance, I believe Ashley would have been stricter. Okay. I don't feel like I'm that strict, but okay, all right. Good feedback. Okay, I felt comfortable showing my homework or project progress online through Zoom meetings. This one, mostly people did, but it's kind of interesting that some people felt ambivalent, and the comments are also super interesting. So participant 10 says that they felt more comfortable showing them off in the Zoom meeting than in class, as well as being able to see everyone else's work. We were able to, through Zoom meetings, we were able to more efficiently share our portfolio work than having to have someone get up from the back of the class, walk to the front of the classroom, plug in their laptop, pull open the document, show it in class, get feedback, unplug their computer, go back around, sit down, right? Like that setup and takedown time, it's just a couple minutes, but those couple minutes are, they matter in class time. So we were able in my user interface class to have a lot more people showcase their portfolio work. So that was appreciated by participant 10. Participant 8 says, I'm shy about showing my work anyway, so the online part made it worse. And this is part of the anxiety I was trying to describe earlier about why I didn't want to record Zoom meetings. It feels like students are very keenly aware that everyone and their literal mother can see your work when you're showing it online, and that is sometimes not the best for anxiety. It's kind of weird talking to a void, and not everyone has access to webcams. Yes, participant 9, I agree. I'm talking to a webcam right now, and it is weird, and it is uncomfortable. And webcams, having your webcam on is ideal, but not everyone can do it, right? There's bandwidth issues. There's all sorts of issues. So, okay, so we're going to wrap up. We have a few more questions that were qualitative. So this one is, if you could do one thing to improve online YouTube lectures, what would it be? Participant 3 said more. Well, thank you, participant 3. Guest lectures are nice in the discussion format rather than individual lecture video because their Q&A is really valuable. So I had a guest speaker that did YouTube videos, and that was great, but we really wanted the Q&A. So nothing wrong. This part was also really reassuring. Nothing wrong with finding a good tutorial video and sharing that. And I really like that comment because it's reassuring, right? There have been times when I thought, gee, I could make an Unreal Engine tutorial and upload it to YouTube, but that's going to take me like 6 hours. And there's this amazing YouTuber already made a really good video. So just show that, right? So professors out there, I'm telling you, if you can find a good YouTube tutorial, share the love, share that YouTube tutorial. There's no shame in it. The students appreciate it. Being able to YouTube stuff, being able to Twitch stream stuff, that's a skill. You don't have to have that skill. You can rely on other people that do have that skill to teach your students. And you're curating it. You're finding, you're still doing the work. You're still valuable as a professor. So don't fall into the trap of thinking just because I didn't make the YouTube video, I can't use it and I'm not a good professor. No, you can use it. Okay. Having timestamps in the video description about the assignment so that'd be easier to go back and review. Cool, good feedback. Thanks, participant 20. That's also, I'm sharing that feedback with you all. Timestamps, students, lots of students requested timestamps in YouTube videos. So that way they can jump to important parts of the lecture. My argument is that all parts of my lectures are important, but I don't think they agree. Have a short time where the YouTube video is live so students can interact with the professor. Cool, good feedback. I was thinking about, yeah, YouTube or Twitch, that'd be good. Make it so everyone can interact with you during lectures. Someone else echoed that point. Condense the lectures into as short a time as possible and maybe more visually interesting than just slideshows. Cool. Well, I'm sorry I'm making all of you that are watching this right now sit through my slideshow. That one hurt. That one stung a little bit, but okay. That's fair. Good feedback. Okay, if you could do one thing to improve online in-class activities, so the Zoom meetings we did, the Unreal 4 tutorials, when we played Fortnite together, what would it be? Maybe hold more frequent activities that are just discussions or play sessions. That way everyone can have a chance to play something they might enjoy more and it's not as much of a burden to hold class compared to normal meetings. I love the idea of all playing together. And I'm a little bit sad that the term is over and people have kind of gone their separate ways. So you can, students still, you can add me on Discord. We can play games for sure. Zoom kind of sucks and their history of privacy violations is frightening. I don't know. I prefer Google Meets. Slack is great, but only the grad students have access to that. I thought it was really interesting that students are very up on privacy concerns for online platforms. That part I definitely want to share with you. If you're worried about privacy, your students are worried about privacy. Take that into consideration when you consider which platform to use. Kahoot quizzes that get the class engaged, participant 6. I have no experience with Kahoot quizzes. If any of you do, comment below, let me know, because this one is actually really, really interesting. I'm really considering it. Required watching of the lectures before the Zoom meeting so more in-depth discussion can happen. Well, participant 16, I tried. I did try. I tried to make them mandatory. I put in quizzes. You know, you can only do so much, but yes, I take your point on board. Which is one way the class was improved by the switch to an online format. I'm trying to find the silver lining here. I'm trying to make lemonade with these lemons. Participant 7 says, I didn't have to leave my house so I could sleep in more. That's a win. The class was way less stressful being in an online format. I felt that the class became more flexible with my schedule so I could focus on the class when I had the mental focus to do so rather than when I was assigned to focus. I love this comment. This is probably like the best case scenario for online classes, right? This is the goal. Not everyone gets there. This doesn't work for everyone, but I love the idea of being able to focus on the class when you have the ability to focus and not when you're assigned to be in a room. I love that. Everyone got used to open communication. Since we couldn't see each other in person, everyone was much more responsive to messages and in general more connected. It's true, participant 19, our Discord channels were very active. This one is the sweetest comment. This one warmed my heart. I get to have my parents around to help me with things. That was adorable. That is so cute and I love that. And yes, get help from your parents, get help from anyone that will help you. Participant 4, you warmed my heart. Okay, now the bad stuff. What's one way the class was worsened by the switch to an online format? Less in-person contact. I definitely didn't do the in-class exercises, though I thought about how I would do them. Participant 5, bless your honesty. I love it when my students are honest. Yeah, less in-person contact means less likelihood that the students are going to do those careful activities you planned, even if you try to do them online together. Participant 14 says the interaction and immediate feedback with peers is lacking in an online format. The in-class assignments were the best part of the class before switching online. I take that on board. And some of the other recommendations, like the Kahoot quizzes and all the Zoom like activity meetings, I'm investigating how to improve this myself. Audience, if you have any comments, please let me know. Love to hear them. Out of sight, out of mind. Assignments became almost invisible to me. I had to discipline myself to check them all the time. Again, we're going back to this idea that students don't know how to be online students necessarily. I think some tools here would be very useful for folks like participant 17. And then participant 1 just said, I miss being in class. Oh, participant 1 made me sad. I miss being in class too, participant 1. Hey, any other thoughts or comments? These all just totally warmed my heart. This is the part where I don't want to cry, but I'm probably going to cry on a YouTube video, so I can probably edit this out. But the comments are, I love the class and the people in it, would recommend, which is nice. Either way, I think Ashley has done a phenomenal job transitioning and has proven that she is wonderful, intelligent, and extremely versatile professor that can teach no matter the format. Overall, keep up the good work. You're one of the best professors I've ever had. You show us how much you care about not only the course, but us as individuals with every single interaction. Thanks for all you do. It's hard not to get emotional. Like, students, I don't know if you know this, but your teachers care a lot. All of us care a lot about you and about our classes. Sorry, I was a little worried going into school this year, especially with the virus, but you made the semester a blast. Thank you so much for everything. Little heart emoji, heart back. This one got me. Thanks for not abandoning us. No, I'm not gonna just straight up Jurassic Park you and leave you with the T-Rex. No. Thanks, Ashley. You did great, and I really appreciate how much you care about ensuring we are successful as students. Even stuff like these additional surveys show your dedication to teaching and to us as students. I mean, these end of semester surveys really mean a lot to students. They mean a lot to me as well. So that's another pro tip for you all out there. If you're not running your own surveys to figure out what you could do better as a course, that's something that's really impactful, and it really does make you a better teacher. Thank you for all the kind support. Your efforts are highly appreciated. You really made everything possible to make this an enjoyable learning experience. Thank you all so much for these lovely comments. It really does touch my heart. And professors out there reading this, I know you've had the feels too, right? This is the rewarding part of the semester when it feels good. Now I want to add, I got 2 comments that made me laugh, and I love my students so much for their sense of humor. For my user research class, someone wrote, I learned something about surveys by taking this survey, so that's good. And someone wrote, all hail Hypnotoad. Any other thoughts and comments? That's okay. All right, cool. Well, there you go. So if you have any questions, YouTube audience, do get in touch with me, twitch.tv Professor Ashley. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can ask me questions in real time. Feel free to email me, tweet at me. If you're into the gram, you can do the Instagram. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope your semester ended well. I hope your switch to online teaching went well. And I hope you are happy, healthy, and safe, and you have an excellent summer.